What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my Week 5 top 12 defense rankings. I've already posted the running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends. The flex rankings will be out tomorrow. And I'm also going to try to put out some rest of season rankings either on Thursday or Friday, so stay tuned for those. But let's just dive right into the defenses here. I'm going to start off with two defenses in Tier 1. The first one, I think the best option this week is going to be the Vikings going up against the Browns. The Browns have the lowest implied point total this week, all the way down at 16. They're making a quarterback change going from Joe Flacco to Dylan Gabriel. Now, I think the Vikings, have a strong case to be the number one defense, regardless of quarterback. Joe Flacco certainly wasn't lighting the world on fire, was turning the ball over at a very, very high rate. But this could be even worse with Dylan Gabriel. I mean, he's a quarterback who I don't think has a ton of upside. The weapons around him are certainly lacking. Also, the Vikings have just been a really strong defensive option. They're third in points per game. We saw them really give fits to Jake Browning. I believe that was week 3. So against like rougher offenses, this Vikings defense has been really, really ferocious. They can make teams look really bad. I like them here at the number 1 spot. Then also in Tier 1, I have the Cardinals going up against the Titans. This is also just attacking a really, really rough offense. The Titans are implied 16.5 points this game. They were shut out in week 4. I mean, Cam Ward said it best, like they are ass at this point. They are not good. Defenses going up against the Titans are scoring the second most points per game. And then the Cardinals defense has been respectable. They're 12th in fantasy points per game. It's a great matchup. It's just tough to see this Titans offense really burn you here if you are playing the Cardinals. Now moving into Tier 2, going to start off with the Lions going up against the Bengals. This Lions defense has been solid for fantasy, 4th in points per game. Defenses going up against the Bengals are scoring the most points per game. And then in the 2 games since the Joe Burrow injury, the 2 full games with Jake Browning, this offense has just been atrocious. They've combined for 13 total points. Now, I will point out that it's been 2 very tough defenses, the Vikings, then the Broncos, but still, they're just leaving a lot to be desired. I think this Lions defense is pretty solid, so I think you continue to attack the defenses going up against the Bengals. Then also in Tier 2, the last Tier 2 team, we have the Browns going up against the Vikings. The Vikings are tied for the 4th lowest implied point total this week. Their offensive line is very banged up. We saw the Steelers really get to them, apply a lot of pressure to Carson Wentz in that early Sunday morning game. And then this Browns defense is just very solid. Also, defenses going up against the Vikings are scoring the 4th most points per game. I think this could be a big Myles Garrett day. The Browns are going to be my number 4 in my rankings. Then moving into Tier 3, going to start off with the Eagles going up against the Broncos. The Eagles are tied for 4th in fantasy points per game. The Broncos are tied for the 4th lowest implied point total. The Broncos did look solid in week 4, but you have to consider the competition. They were going up against the Bengals. Obviously, big difference going from the Bengals defense in week 4 now to the Eagles in week 5. I think the Eagles are certainly a fine option here in week 5. Then we have the Texans going up against the Ravens. The Ravens are tied for the 4th lowest implied point total with the Broncos. Lamar Jackson, unfortunately, going to miss some time, 2 to 3 weeks with that hamstring injury. So now you're looking at an offense that, a week ago had a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, now being led by Cooper Rush, who just does not scare me at all. Now they still have Derrick Henry. The run game should still be fine, but this Texans defense is just very solid. I know the overall team hasn't been great. The offense has struggled, but the Texans are still 10th in fantasy points per game. They've held some good offenses, to some underwhelming results. So I do think the Texans are a nice option this week with Lamar Jackson missing. And then my last Tier 3 team is going to be the Colts going up against the Raiders. From a fantasy perspective, this Colts defense has been nice, 6th in points per game. Defenses going up against the Raiders are scoring the 5th most points per game. And then Geno Smith, I've liked Geno. I thought he could do some good things for this offense. He's been really rough to start off the season. He is leading the NFL with 7 interceptions. I think he's had multiple 3 interception games. It just has not been a good start to the season for Geno. So with him kind of struggling, I like the Colts at number 7. Then moving into my 4th and final tier, I'm going to start off with the Seahawks. I did consider bumping the Seahawks up into tier 3. They are leading every single defense in fantasy points per game. They're 6th in sacks, they're 7th in interceptions. They've scored 2 special teams touchdowns. So all around, just a very solid defense. The thing that held me back is just this Buccaneers offense is pretty solid, and you can just get one of those like huge Baker games. The weapons are solid with Chris Godwin. Back in the lineup, you got Tristan Wirfs back. Obviously, Emeka Egbuka is having a great season. It seems like Buck Irving might not play this week, so maybe that could kind of be the difference maker to put them in the tier 3 area, but I think they're kind of firmly between 3 and 4. I do like the Seahawks this week against the Buccaneers. Then I'm going to go with the Rams going up against the 49ers. Now, it's tough to give the Rams like a firm placement because at the time that I'm recording this, we just don't know what's going on with the 49ers' health. Their entire offense is banged up with the exception of Christian McCaffrey. This Rams defense on its own has been solid, 10th in fantasy points per game. But I think what makes them even more intriguing is that Brock Purdy, questionable with the turf toe injury. He did play in week 4, but was sore after. You've got their top 2 wide receivers in Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings. Both of those guys are banged up, questionable to play on Thursday. So if I had to make a prediction right now, I think Brock Purdy plays, but probably isn't 100%. Also, has just kind of struggled in his last like 4 or 5 full games as the starter. I think Juwan Jennings probably toughs it out. And then I'd lean towards Ricky Pearsall not playing, which is a big hit because Ricky's been a monster to start off this season. I like the Rams as like a mid to back end defense one option. Then I have the Saints going up against the Giants. I actually have these 2 teams back to back. This is kind of like the toilet bowl here between the Saints and the Giants. Not quite the worst teams in the league, but certainly towards the bottom there. So I'll start off with the Saints. They are favored in this game. They're going up against a rookie quarterback in Jackson Dart. No Malik Neighbors. Like, this offense is just not scary. You've got like the threat of Dart's legs. You've got Wan'Dale Robinson, who'll probably give you like 8 receptions for 40 yards. And then you have Cam Scatabo, who's super fun, but like overall, this is just a really rough offensive unit. The Giants are not projected to put up a ton of points. They're tied for the 7th lowest implied point total. And then on the other side, I think the Giants are also playable going up against the Saints. This Saints offense doesn't scare me. The Giants defense had kind of been underwhelming to start off the season, especially through 3 weeks. I think they really kind of turned it up in week 4. The pass rush looked great against the Chargers. The defense, really led them to pulling out that win. So trending in the right direction. I think they can have another solid game here against the Saints. And then the final defense, I think if I really wanted to nitpick, they could probably go in tier 5. There was a few different teams I was choosing between. I ended up settling with the Bills going up against the Patriots. The Bills, from a fantasy perspective, haven't been great, but it's really because, like, from a point per game perspective, they had a really rough week 1, like negative points against the Ravens. Obviously, you shouldn't have been starting them against the Ravens. I don't think many people did, but then they've had 3 pretty solid, like, safe games back to back to back against the Jets, Dolphins, and the Saints. Now, I think you could make the case this is an upgrade going up against this Patriots offense, which is coming off a really solid game, a blowout against the Panthers. But this is still not an offense I think is like a top tier unit. Like, they're just 1 week removed from like the 1,000,000 turnover game against the Steelers. I think the Bills defense overall is solid. I think it's like a desperate streaming option. The Bills are fine this week. So that is going to wrap it up for my top 12 defenses. If you guys enjoyed the video, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe. Make sure you check out all the other rankings videos and then stay tuned for the flex rankings and then the rest of season stuff. Thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.